Greetings, beautiful people. This is Simon Javan Okelo. I am the CEO of Madaraka Festival and also your host here at the Madaraka Festival Podcast on YouTube. Right now, we are at the Seattle Drum School of Music in Georgetown, and I'm really honored to host my brother Damon, who is the founder of the Communion and also Brown Liquor. How are you, my brother?
Doing wonderful, man. Doing wonderful. How you doing today?
I'm so happy you're here.
Thank you for having me. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, I'm so happy you're here, and I'm really proud of your accomplishments.
Thank you.
With your work at the Communion and your work at Brown Liquor, but also, you are someone that I've seen in action. I've just sat there. Eating, drinking, but watching you work, and it's inspiring,
Thank you, man.
Yeah,
appreciate that.
Yeah. So take us back, because you didn't just show up as Damon overnight, A lot of people, they just love the results.
Yeah.
They love the story of the Communion. But many people don't know that not even long ago, that brown girl was just catering small events, I remember that brown girl catering to one of my events at, Good Air Salon.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And the food was delicious even at that time, So take us back to a moment when you are like 5 to 10 years old. Share with us some of the colors, some of the smells, some of the sounds that you grew up with that continue to drive who you are to this day.
Man, that's a good question. That's a good question. So I was born and raised here in Seattle. Grew up in the Central District. First off of 20th and Main, over by Pratt Park, and then we moved over to 24th and Marion, closer to Union, closer to where Communion is now. I would say, in terms of colors, I think green, would be the primary color that I think of in terms of Seattle, just because of Pratt Park. Spent a lot of time over there, and I say green and red. Green because of the big grass field that was there. Yeah. And that was just that was like the center of my life between 5 and 10 was right there, right by Pratt Fine Arts. So the red comes from seeing the glass blowing studio. So you would walk by and see them, teaching the classes or doing the glass blowing. That was really dope. And then kind of just walking in and seeing that big Sonics logo in the big Sonics basketball court that they built over off to the side. So then I just remember like the Monad water what are they, like the water structures? Water fountains. Yeah. So a local Black Seattle artist, Monad, I think it's Monad, I think it is, built those beautiful structures. It was, that was the beginning of my life between 5 and 10. Right off there, right by Washington Middle School. I went to Rotary. So, Rotary was the center of my life at that time. So I think about that. And then sounds-wise, I grew up heavily in the church. My mother, generationally, my family has been not just church attendees, but employed by the church. And so my grandmother was a church pianist. So was my uncle. My great-grandmother was a pastor. So, church is heavily in the foundation of who I am. And so we went to New Covenant Christian Center in the Rainier Beach area. And that's really where, you think about sounds. And my mom started cooking. I mean, she had been cooking before then, but my memory was cooking, at the church. That's, and so gospel music in terms of sounds, especially at that age, between 5 and 10 was big. Kirk Franklin, came out, and that, that Stomp song kind of changed the game in terms of how gospel music was seen, because it was more secular than most. So then Fred Hammond was a big sound for me growing up. And then outside, and then because my mom wasn't really big on listening to a lot of secular music at that time when I was growing up. So so gospel music was the sound. And then every once in a while outside of that, Stevie Wonder was a big for my mom, and Stevie Wonder, and I'll never forget that Mary J. Blige debut album. My goodness, she played that album, like literally back to back to back. And I just remember those two, those being the kind of like the nucleus of my music experience growing up.
The soundtrack of your life at that time.
Exactly. And then taste-wise, my mom was always very much of an adventurous eater. So that's reflective in Communion's cuisine today. So we ate a lot of Chinese food because 20th and Main is about 5 blocks outside of the International District. We shopped in the International District. We bought most of our food there. And then when we ate out, it would mainly be from that area as well. So the 2 restaurants I say, were foundational to my upbringing was Cow Cow and Tai Tung. And so they're right across the street from each other. But yeah, definitely that barbecue duck is definitely it's something from my memory at that age. That's a memory. And the brother that was the owner that was there when I was growing up, it's an older man. He was always up there chopping it with his cleaver, chopping the duck, the pork, and everything like that. So that was like foundational to my memory.
I love that. I love that. What's interesting though is now you guys are like the go-to African American cuisine spot.
Yes.
Spoken about globally, not just in Seattle. So how did this evolution happen from eating a lot of Chinese food growing up to making some of the most delicious meals ever seen? Yeah.
I mean, I think it really is a testament. I think my mom and I's journey is parallel, but when it comes to the building of the restaurant, that definitely, all the respect goes to my mother because of the journey of her career. And so she started That Brown Girl Cooks when I was younger. And, as a young entrepreneur, she was just grinding it out. And I remember we first started in that apartment on 20th and Main. And then she grew out of the apartment. And let me think, I'm trying to figure out what the first kitchen was. The first kitchen in my memory, and I might get this wrong, but was the Masonic Temple that's right behind the Walgreens on 23rd and Jackson. So she rented out the kitchen that was at the bottom of the Masonic Temple. So we operated out of there for a long time, and then she grew even more, and then we operated in Bellevue for a little bit, but then we came back to the city on 26th and Valley, and she had her own standalone kitchen there, and that was kind of like the high time of That Brown Girl Cooks as a young as when I was growing up. And so at that time, she was, I think the biggest thing for her was she was really a part of a lot of programs like Ventures, which at the time was Washington Cash. She, was doing all the business development programs and really went through that journey. And then, through those connections and through her ability to network, she was able to cater for numerous people. Yes. So, she catered for K&L Gates, which is Bill Gates' father's law firm, catered for Amazon back in the day when they were still at PacMed, catered for, all these different organizations, nonprofits, civic.
Seattle Foundation.
Seattle Foundation. Like the city of Seattle was a big client for her. And through that, providing just a really quality food product as well as her networking skills, it really set the foundation for Communion to be what it is. So when, I'm young at that time. I'm in high school. So so then in 2009, I graduated high school, and she had my little sister, and through that, and then we had, my grandmother passed away. And so through that kind of like the collection of those events, she closed down the catering company in 2009. And I went to college. I went to Howard University in Washington, D.C. And so I remember, she closed down for about 3 years. She was doing some other things. And then she came back and was like, hey, you remember that product we used to do, the hummus? And I was like, yeah, I remember we used to do, she had this whole dip menu. So I was like, oh yeah, okay. And then she was like, yeah, well, we're gonna start, doing the hummus and selling it in stores. And I was like, what? Like, what's going on here? Like, hummus? Like, black folks don't eat no hummus. Like, what are you talking about? I was like, all right, cool. Like, I'm still in D.C. at this time. I'm working in the restaurant industry.
In D.C.?
In D.C., yeah. And, I started going to the grocery store and looking at the hummus section and was like, okay, well, I can get on board with this. I can see it's in a lot of health food stores and, people are buying it. And, all right, I tasted some hummuses. I was like, okay, cool. I like it. Let's see what we can do. And so fast forward, I think right around 2015, she had grown it. Like, this is, again, the resilience of an entrepreneur. Yeah. She knows how to hustle. She knows how to get a product out there. So she was in farmers markets doing it. She was, doing, like, selling the hummus all by herself, pretty much. And so I remember in 2015, there's this it's called a co-packer. And what they do is they'll take your recipe and they'll produce your product for you. So she was trying to move to that co-packer and it didn't end up working out. And she was like, man, I don't know if I can go through one more cycle of this business. And so that's when I'm in DC, and I'm like, all right, nah, like, I'm not gonna let this fail again. Not fail, I wouldn't call it a failure, but I'm not gonna let this business go, because she was talking about not doing it ever again. She was like, I'm done. And I was like, nah. So then I moved back, like, I literally moved back 6 months later after we had that conversation, and then just started to work with her and do that. And so we did the hummus, and that was its own journey. We brought back the catering. Again, kind of building that business back up, with me mainly doing a lot of the operational organization work, like getting the recipes written down, getting our processes and procedures written down, so we can train new people, getting the business structure together, kind of like, we were working together to build it up as an organization, as a business, with foundation.
Creating systems.
Yeah, creating systems. That's my specialty, is like creating operational systems. And so then, we were doing the catering thing, and I've always wanted to open up restaurants. I always, like, growing up, I became, she's a chef. I'm like, well, Mom, why don't you do a restaurant? And, like, she was like, she didn't work in restaurants because it would take her away at night from raising me.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So she did mainly catering and, like, deli, things like that. Yeah. And so I've always wanted to do restaurants. I worked in multiple restaurants out in D.C., specifically bartending. And that was my goal. I was like, I don't want to cook, because I just, it's not my vibe, what I'm saying? Yeah. But I do want to bartend because it gives me the interaction of the people.
You can connect with people.
I can connect with people, and I can create something. I can be creative and connect with people. Yeah. And so that's when I went into that avenue. So we got back, and she was like, always like, no, I'll only do a restaurant if the energy, like, it just lines up perfectly, and there's like no way I can deny this. Yeah. So it happened. Like, the energy lined up perfectly, and there was no way we could deny it. When White King from Africatown approached us with the opportunity, as well as I think it was Donna Moody from when she was on the board. She's the owner of Marjorie's restaurant. I think Donna Moody approached my mom because she's on the board of Community Roots Housing. And so then they were like, well, we're doing this project at the Liberty Bank. This is what it's about, and we want y'all to be a part of it, because she had been, That Brown Girl Cooks had a reputable brand and a good name with connect, with food. Yeah. And so
there's an African saying that says your reputation travels ahead of you. You know? So her reputation basically made it so that these people, when they were thinking of who should take that opportunity, who they should work with to take over that space, automatically they knew who to talk to.
Exactly.
I love that.
Exactly. And it really did come together like that in a very magical way, I would say, because somebody approached us with another opportunity out in Rainier Beach, and we were just like, nah, we had kind of make that hard decision to say it just wasn't for us. And then this came like literally like a week after we said no. And so it was like, oh wow, this is a beautiful a beautiful opportunity, and you're like, yes, immediately, kind of like, you know, being in the neighborhood that I grew up in, right down the street from my old house, you know what I'm saying, and it was a great opportunity, and so, you know, then the people that came and really put us on their back to make this happen, you know, like, it's one thing. So I think that when opportunity happens, right? Yeah. Like, you as an artist, you have the music, right? You have the product, you know, you have the talent, right? And then there's other people around you that have their skill set that are not necessarily the talent itself that bring you along the way. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So, like, Donald King, you know, was one of those people. He's one of the foremost black architects here in Seattle, who's actually designing and building a space on 23rd and Cherry right now. Katisha Atterbury is another person. You know, she utilized her knowledge in real estate to help us cross the line, you know what I'm saying, there. And then just the synergy and the energy of Africatown, Community Roots Housing, and the Liberty Bank Project as a whole, really, honestly, all those factors put together really make Communion what it is. And then myself, just as myself, I'm like, I call myself a creative inspirator, you know what I'm saying? So creating, you know, the marketing plan, creating the business structure, creating all, and then bringing my restaurant knowledge into it to really, you know, cross with my mom's chef skills, and then bringing that to Communion today. Yeah. Man. Yeah.
I love, you know, a lot of people so far into our conversation today, anybody who has never been to Seattle or who don't know you or who have never been to Communion really cannot appreciate the beauty of this journey that you just gave us a glimpse of it, you know. Just paint a picture, you know, of what the Communion is, you know. And also walk us through the Communion, you know. Recently, I came to the Communion for a meeting with you. I came a little earlier, so parking is always a challenge. So I drove around and I saw you sitting across the street, you know, you know, just taking a break or something. There's a bench right across the street. So you're sitting there and I was like, man, this guy is comfortable. You're in your zone, you know.
De-stressing.
I knew you were de-stressing. Because as a fighter, you have to know, Bob Marley says, he who fights and runs away lives to fight another day. You know, so you're living to fight another day.
Yeah, pretty much.
You're living to fight another hour. You know, because I literally saw you then get in the car and go and bring some ice that was needed. You know, you're just like, okay, let me take a break and then go and do the next thing. But at that moment, I was like, if somebody has never been there and you left that bench and you are giving them a tour of the Communion, paint that picture quickly for us now.
That's a good question. That's a really good question. Yeah, man. So I always say, like, you start off, you're in the Central District of Seattle. There's the historically black neighborhood in Seattle. You know, if you know anything about redlining, you know, a lot of our community was placed into that area. Since the neighborhood has changed a lot. You'll see, you know, 6-story buildings on every corner. There's a PCC market on the corner. There's Uncle Ike's on the corner. There's, you know, Ray's Donuts. You'll see Art Noir on the corner, diagonal from PCC. Taco Chuki's is another small business that we're connected with. Love them. All in that corner. And if you're walking towards Communion, you'll pass Earl's historic barbershop's been on the corner for 30 years. You'll pass Avol, you know, Ethiopian coffee shop, young owners, we're all about the same age, you know, really doing it. They might have music going on outside. They have some art on the walls, things like that. And then you pass Communion. As you're walking through Communion, as you're walking up to the business, you'll see pictures of my family on the bottom window, and, you know, generations from Arkansas, Kansas City, Missouri, you know, things of that nature. And then you walk into the door, you know, you'll see people eating on the patio, having a good time if it's summertime. If it's wintertime, some people still eat on the patio. But yeah, you'll walk into the door, and I think the first thing that you'll see when you walk into communion is the back bar. It's this beautiful wooden back bar.
I love that bar.
Yeah, it really grounds the space. And I think one of the things when we were designing it was like, you know, we want it to be Seattle. And we want it to be classic, something that can stand the test of time, you know. And so that back bar really does bring it all together. It was actually a gift from the contractor. They were working on a church in the neighborhood, and they saw it and was like, you know what, that would be a dope piece. So it wasn't an original plan. So they bought the middle piece of the back bar, and they built the rest around it. So it's beautiful. You'll see right in the middle of the bar, you'll see Uncle Nearest, you know, which is the black-owned, like one of the largest black-owned whiskey brands. The brother Uncle Nearest, who taught Jack Daniels how to distill. Then you'll see a copper bar. You know, that was from one of the spaces that I worked in D.C. I really love that vibe of a copper bar. So I was like, yeah, we got to have that in there. Then you'll see a lot of blue. You'll see this kind of like not sea foam, but more like a ocean blue, ocean sky blue, very indicative of Seattle. Kind of reminds me of that Seattle vibe. You'll see wood accents. That was, again, one of the things that we decided to put to a design element that we decided on to represent Seattle. You'll see a large cherry wood table in the middle, and that's our communal table. So we'll just sit multiple different parties at the table, which the ideal of that was for people to interact with each other. Even if you're coming from different parties, you're celebrating something different. You know, that excitement bleeds over to the next section. Some people, you know, it's a hit or miss sometimes. Some people are like, I don't want to sit next to you, you know what I'm saying? But then as the dinner elapses, I think people start to understand the vision behind it and understand that, you know, there's so many things distracting us from connecting with each other. You know, and at this moment, as you're dining in this restaurant, you know, you have an opportunity to connect. You know, and I think that that's really important. You'll see an open kitchen. So you get to see the food being made, chefs hard at work. And then I think one of my favorite parts is the copper ceiling. I always call it the Watch the Throne ceiling because it looks like the album cover of the Jay-Z Kanye Watch the Throne. But it's that copper ceiling, and that was my idea when I went to New Orleans and Atlanta while we were developing the space, looking for design elements and things like that. And so it was like, you know, I saw that the drop ceiling, that copper ceiling, made a space feel very classic. You know, made it, you know, timeless. You know, kind of getting into that, you know, that pre-pro. You know, as a bar person, you know, history, that pre-prohibition bar era, you know, New Orleans and that southern feel. So that was an element that we were able to kind of input into the space. And, you know, the architect, you know, I love that our relationship with our architect is so dope. So
it's so important.
Yeah, it is. It is. That's Atelier Drome with Michelle Linden and Angela Tam, and they really brought that to life. They really brought it all to life and all those design elements. And then I think the last piece, which is the last piece that was put into the space, was the collage of pictures on the wall, which is a lot of like an ode to my family, homage to my family. And you'll just see pictures of my grandmother, my grandfather, my aunts and uncles, great grandparents, great aunts and uncles, things like that nature. And they're watching down on us. You know, that definitely it's really a protective element for me to see my family watching down as we're operating this business and as we're kind of operating in this vision. And then you see the food.
I love
you know,
that.
And I think that's the one thing I like to tell people about restaurants is about the food, you know, but it's also about the vibe, you know, the music, the atmosphere, the intentional service, and just all those things collecting to give you that whole experience of, because, you know, you'll say like, there's this author of a book that I love, it's called Unreasonable Hospitality. He says, you know, if you talk about somebody with a restaurant experience, you know, they'll rarely often remember what they ate, but they will always remember how they felt. And so I think that that's something that, you know, with communion, that we were intentional about how people feel coming into the space.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. What's your favorite space in the communion? I've seen you, I always watch you. I've seen you at the right corner of the bar. You know, that day after we talked, you went and put on your headphones and you were working in the corner there. But that was not the first time in that corner.
That's my favorite space because you can see everything from that space.
Yeah.
You can see the patio. You can see everybody. You can just kind of, I think for me as co-owner and manager, like I have to keep my eye on everything, you know, and it's funny because people will catch me looking at them and they're like, why are you looking at me? And I'm like, well, I'm just kind of like gauging the experience. I'm like, I'm trying not to stare at you, but from that corner, you know, one, I can work, and then two, I can kind of just keep an eye on everything. And I think that's why it's my favorite. And I can just see the experience, you know, for me, like, lighting is important. Music, is the music too loud? Is the lighting dim enough? You know, what are we missing? Oh, I see the bartender struggling with this. I can go help. I see they're getting backed up at the line, at the expo line. You know, I can go help there. Or I can see that, you know, there's a little bit of a backup at the front, at the host stand. I can go help there. So from there, I can kind of move and maneuver throughout the whole space. Yeah.
I love that. I love that.
Yeah.
Let's talk about brown liquor.
Yeah.
You know, because many entrepreneurs. Many real entrepreneurs, they never have one thing going.
Yeah. It's true. You know, restaurants don't make money. I'm going to tell you right now.
Yeah.
So you definitely have to have more than one thing going on. Yeah.
So let's talk about Brown Liquor.
Okay.
It's a brand that you founded also.
Yeah.
Of course, we are partnering with Brown Liquor for Madaraka Festival. This year, we did it in 2022 as well. Talk about Brown Liquor, then we want to now talk about our partnership.
Okay, cool. Brown liquor, you know, like I said earlier, you know, I always wanted to be a part of the restaurant industry and the food industry. Cooking wasn't really my thing, but I did love bartending. And so as I was learning, you know, and bartending is, you know, it is an exercise in not only crafting drinks, craft bartending, or like the specific industry of this bartending is, you know, it's also like a look into history. You know what I'm saying? And so, like, you know, if you study bartending, if you study the cocktail and the spirits industry, you really can study the history of the world. You know, in terms of like migration, in terms of trade, in terms of, you know, you think about in the 1800s, 1700s, one of the largest import exports, sugarcane, rum. That drove the world, you know. You think about it, and so I really fell in love with that, with bartending. So I was working in DC. I think brown liquor came about because I was working in DC at a little craft cocktail bar in Georgia Petworth, in the Georgia Petworth area. And if you know anything about DC, that area of Northwest DC is very similar to the CD. You know, whereas historically black area, well, DC is all black, you know. At that time, DC is like 80% black, but that area was right up the way from Howard University, and it's a historically black neighborhood. But like the CD was going through that gentrification change. And so we were working on this block, and I just saw like we were right in the middle of the change. So you still had the old neighborhood, and then you had the new neighborhood. This real small like cocktail bar was not black owned, and then they had like a really fine dining Japanese restaurant across the street. But then next door was this old diner where I swear that woman had to be like 90 years old, was still cooking breakfast. It was a breakfast diner, and so a lot of the you know, the old inhabitants of the neighborhood was still there, you know. But you can see, I think that for me, you could see the separation, you know, that although this space was still there, although the neighborhood was still the same as it used to be, this bar was not for the neighborhood. You know what I'm saying? So people would come in and they would not feel comfortable, you know what I'm saying? And they wouldn't, and even the staff, like some of the bars, people that I work with, were not really inviting, you know what I'm saying? So somebody would come in and you know, politics creeps into every part of our life. So somebody come in and order a lemon drop, which is a popular drink. It's a craft cocktail. And because a lemon drop has been deemed as a ghetto drink now, you know what I'm saying? The bartender's like, I don't want to make this. You know what I'm saying? Or somebody comes in and orders a Long Island iced tea, which if you read any of the classic bar books, all of these recipes are in there. This is a classic drink, you know what I'm saying, that dignitaries drank back in the day, you know what I'm saying? But for some reason now, it has been assigned with a different culture now. Yeah. So people were like, I don't want to make that, or you're, kind of classifying people as ghetto. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So I wasn't really a fan of that. Yeah. I wasn't a fan of that. And so for me, that's where the idea of brown liquor came out. Yeah. It plays on our family name, Brown, and also plays on our current family company, which is That Brown Girl Cooks. But it was perfect for us, like, okay, brown liquor, boom. And so really, that's where the idea came out. And right now, the way we operate is we do cocktail catering for events and do curated recipes for those specific events and things like that. And so for Madaraka Festival, we partnered in 2022 at the Pier 62, summertime. Vibe was high.
I know.
Man, you talk about colors at the beginning of this? Yeah. Colors everywhere, man. Every color under the sun. It was like a rainbow, bro. Like, I remember just the different outfits that I saw on that day. And, bringing out, the African diaspora, which I didn't even know was present in Seattle like that. But it's funny because after I saw it, I couldn't unsee it. So now you go like, I'll go to Rumbanos, now it's everywhere. Go to Rumbanos and there's a West African party. Like, it's everywhere now. Everywhere. You know what I'm saying?
I think Madaraka opened the doors for the entire African diaspora in this region.
Come on.
Because a lot of African events used to happen in the places where Africans live.
Yeah.
Even now, a lot of African events still happen in Federal Way, Kent. Yeah. But Madaraka is always forcing our people to be in spaces where we are not welcome. More
I feel that. Exactly.
Pier 62. So we bring out, we are more visible if we are at places where we are not expected to be. Like the first year of Madaraka Festival in 2014, we had the line, surrounding Mopo. And not a lot of black people have been seen in that area.
Right.
Like in 2014, you'd rarely see over 1,000 black people in one place.
Not that area.
But now, Blast Fest is even doing it bigger than Madaraka in the same space. Then we have Spirit of Africa. Now we have Choma Festival at Jimi Hendrix Park. We have Kenya Culture Fest in Federal Way.
That's fire.
All these are attendees of Madaraka. These are people who used to attend Madaraka Festival, and now they have their own thing.
That's dope, man. I think that's really dope. I actually remember seeing Madaraka Festival for the first time because you partnered with Yidam. Yeah, because Yidam was a part of it. And so that... Yidam Sek is a local Seattle artist and also part of a family. And so it was really dope. I remember seeing that on Instagram when I was back, or Facebook while I was back in DC. I was always, when I was in DC, I was always missing home. So I'd be like, oh, what's going on? I was like, I gotta get back home because it's Seattle. But man, that was a dope. 2022 was fire. I think, and then this year, we're just going to recreate that vibe.
We have to recreate
what I'm saying? Vibe. So you'll come into the bar, to the beer garden, and you'll have like 5, colorful cocktails. So we do like batch cocktails, which in the history is what we call punch cocktails, which means 5 ingredients. It's spirit, liqueur, spice, sugar, and tea.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? So that's why we do it in that way. And so all of my cocktails, now it's not that simple. We'll do our own zhuzhin, we'll do our own specialty thing. But that's the basis of what we do in terms of for large parties. Because we want to keep the vibe flowing, we want to keep it, we want to do something crafty, but we also want to focus on getting the party, keeping the party going.
I love that.
Yeah.
Now look at this camera and invite your people to join us on August 30th at Pier 62.
Yes, sir.
Madaraka Festival.
Come on, man. Yes. August 30th. Pull up. Madaraka Festival at Pier 62. It's going to be a wonderful vibe. Brown liquor will be there in full effect, pouring up beautiful libations, the music, the atmosphere, the energy. It's going to be amazing. So come on, pull up to Madaraka Festival August 30th. Get your ticket. Get your ticket now.
100%.
Yeah.
So share with everybody who is joining us for today's conversation how they can stay in touch with you.
Yeah.
But also how they can support you. Whether it's with the communion or with brown liquor.
Yeah.
Look at that camera again.
Yes, sir. You can please follow us at communionseattle.com. And then follow on Instagram. Follow us at Brown Liquor Cocktail. Oh, sorry. Hold on. Can I restart that?
Yes.
Okay, cool. Follow us on, you can keep up with us. Follow us on Instagram, Communion Seattle, and Brown Liquor Cocktail. You can follow us on both, please. Come make your reservation at Communion. We'll start in brunch this Sunday, July 20th. Is our first brunch of the year. We're bringing back brunch. I don't know if you've ever been, but our brunches are pretty iconic.
Yeah.
And we'll be opening up on Tuesdays as well in August. So come make your reservation, pull up on us. I'll greet you with a smile, have a good time. You know what I'm saying? And for Brown Liquor, reach out to us. If you have a party, a festival, things going on, want to set up a beer garden, hit us up. You know what I'm saying? We could definitely liven up your party, bring the vibes. You know what I'm saying?
I love that.
Yeah.
Talk a little more about this brunch, the Sunday brunch.
Yeah, man. So I mean, very, adding into the brunch game. We used to do brunch. Had to scale back a little bit. Staffing is hard these days. But we're back. We've taken our time to really nurture the staff, and now we're ready. We're ready to bring back brunch. It'll start at 10. It's 10 to 3 every Sunday. Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
We need more brunch kind of vibe for our community. Sometime on Sundays I can drive and look, but not find any meaningful place to go and eat a meaningful breakfast. Sometimes just alone, but sometimes your family or even friends. So this is really good. This is really
pull up, man. We had to do a Madaraka brunch, man.
I would love that.
You can get one of your DJs to come through.
I would love that.
Yeah, that'd be dope.
I would love that.
Yeah.
Maybe we could do that as a pre-Madaraka festival thing.
That'd be dope. That'd be dope. Let's talk about it. Yes, sir.
Well, thank you all for joining us for today's conversation. This has been a really special time that I've had with my brother Damon Boma, and we've talked a lot about, what inspired him to be who he is today as an entrepreneur. And I want you to take a minute and subscribe to the channel, leave your comment down below. Remember, you subscribing is one of the biggest ways that you can, give us feedback. You're telling us that we're doing the right thing, So it's really important that you do that, because the more subscribers we have, the bigger our guests get, So take a moment, do that, and I'll see you in the next episode. Thank you so much, my brother.